set the stage for me from your recollection, of course, what you could remember, and just you could take it from as much as you want to explain of what really went down on that fateful 2006 night in the island of Tobago on the Gauntlet 2.
Oh
Floor
gosh,
is
the
yours,
island
Joe.
of Tobago. Oh, whenever anyone says the island of Tobago now, all I can hear is Zach Braff, because I remember working on Scrubs with him and having lunch with him one day, and he was so teasing me about the
Oh,
Gauntlet,
so
and
this was
he just
after.
this was after, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I did work a little bit after, but then I ended up leaving shortly after that. Leaving the country and my home for 14 years. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so whenever anyone says Island of Tobago, all I see is him saying that. um, Let me take myself back there. Difficult because I don't really remember that much and I haven't seen it. So this is completely my view because I haven't seen the edit or anything. I remember doing that challenge. I remember leaving us wet and cold like 5 hours and they wouldn't let us in the house. And I couldn't understand why they wouldn't let us in the house. And everyone kept saying, oh, they do this stuff. But to me, I was used to working in Hollywood now. I wasn't used to being treated like this. I was like, well, surely we can get dry and hang out for a little while. But they said they were getting the house ready. But so I was already kind of irritated from that, getting cold and being wet. And for a girl, being in a wet swimsuit for hours is not really comfortable.
I wouldn't imagine
I'm
so.
sure it's not for a boy either, but
I wouldn't imagine so.
so that was the start of it all. Really, just that really starting to feel uncomfortable and looking around and not really knowing anyone. And like, I remember talking to Beth in the van and just feeling really uncomfortable, like not really wanting to open up or talk to her or anything. I don't know. I just that's when it started. So anyway, we went into the house, changed again. I mean, we were like, oh, the house, and the house was okay. I wasn't that impressed, honestly. I see, I'm, I've seen nicer places, but it was okay, But some of the younger kids were like, yeah, yeah, and they got really excited to have a swimming pool and all those things. So the drinking started. I remember contacting a guy that I was seeing in LA. He was looking after my dog as well, so I wanted to check on my dog. Um, and I didn't really realize this about me and Chihuahuas when I got my first Chihuahua or at that stage, but they really are my therapy dogs, like really 100%. So that was another thing. I was really missing my dog as well, like my baby, my child. And look, I don't know. I have to premise this with something else because wherever I am, I always feel like an outsider. And this is something that I am exploring more now with kind of more release about adult autism. And I don't know if that's something, because I've never been diagnosed, if that's something I have, but I definitely have some of those qualities. Like anxiety being number one, but definitely like sometimes when things get too like just that situation in the gauntlet, it got too noisy, too fast. It just like flipped me over the edge. And I know that like sometimes people would say, oh, that's just her trying to make an excuse for that. And I'm not trying to make any excuses. I am genuinely trying to explore what happened to me then, but that's not been the only time I've reacted like that in a situation. So, and I also have, I try to put myself in small spaces. Like when I was a kid, I would go and put myself in the wardrobe, and hide. So there's things about my life that I still need to explore in that sense. And autism's got a really wide spectrum, so I could be on it somewhere. And I want to explore that
Yeah.
so that I have more understanding of myself. Um, so that's one thing. I remember it all getting a bit much in the house because everybody was really drinking loads and it was getting loud. And I kind of bonded with Derek, and he said, "Do you want to go out for a smoke?" So I said, "Yeah." He said, "Let's go down onto the driveway." I said, "Oh, you managed to get some?" And he's like, "Yeah, we always figure it out." I guess he'd been on these shows before. Everybody figures out to get what they need to enjoy themselves. So we went out and sat in the driveway and we're just chatting, and it was all normal and it was fine. And I was really chilled out, obviously. And I was in a good mood. And back into the house and went up to my room, and this is what tripped me out. The camera guy was on the floor with the camera filming through the slats in the bathroom. What, I don't even know who was in there, but they were having sex, or they were in the mode of having sex, undressing each other, or I don't know, like,
But
what stage they were at.
this wasn't on your bed, right? Like this didn't occur?
I didn't see anybody on my bed at this point.
Okay.
There wasn't anybody on my bed. They were in the bathroom, and the crew were filming them in the bathroom. And I walked in and I went, "What the fuck are you doing?" Excuse me.
You said that to the camera guy?
Yeah, I was like, "What are you doing?" And they were like, and there was like two people standing around from production, like that, and they were watching these kids, and I just felt immediately like really protective. Don't forget that like these kids are in their early 20s, and I was already 30 something at this stage. I felt like I needed to protect them, and I was like, that's horrible, don't and I started yelling at them. And I was starting to get into an argument with production about, the boundaries of things. And, I didn't know that the kids did all this stuff. I didn't know that they were doing this. But actually, I felt for the position these kids were in and what they were actually doing in the bathroom, it was a little bit more than just, grabbing a boob or someone's butt. It was like they were actually in the throes of doing stuff, right? I don't know exactly what, and I don't want to say even if I do, but I just felt like they shouldn't be filming that for the money that we're getting.
Yeah,
they're not, and these kids, that could ruin their lives. That's where the whole argument started. Then, so more and more production came in, and I was like going off about them. And then the kids started to come in. And then I looked at the bed, and there's chocolate sauce all over, and I'm free. And at this stage, I'm like, and I'm supposed, because they're saying to me, don't, because I'd already said I want to leave, right? I'd already said I was a victim of child abuse, sexual abuse. So seeing that happen, also the fact that I'm that victim, that triggered me, So at this point, I'm like, these people are being exploited. They're kids, and it really upset me. And so I was already saying I was going to go. And then I saw the bed, and I was like, oh, I can't live like this. There was chocolate sauce. I didn't know anybody had been in there. All I saw was chocolate sauce all over the bed like that. But it really, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, come on. You're going to let them come in here and do this stuff? This is stupid. I want to go home. So then the next thing, there's a few of the kids came in because they'd heard the arguing, right? And the couple from the bathroom, I don't even remember who they were. I wouldn't recognize them even if I saw them today, So, but the initial thing was I was like really shocked about that, filming them doing what they were doing. Then I started getting my suitcase, and somebody had been through all my stuff, and they'd thrown all my stuff everywhere. And I was like, no, this is it. I'm going home. So I got the suitcase out. I started to get my stuff together, and I was standing at the end of the bed, and I remember talking to Ruthie, and I was going, no, I'm going home. I'm going home. And I turned around, and she jumped on my back and pushed me down on the bed. And for about what felt like about 30 seconds, I couldn't breathe. I was like, face in the covers.
So this is probably where the
And
manhandled line came from.
exactly. So I got her off. That was when I flipped. I mean, it was like a switch. It was like night and day from that point. That's when it really escalated. And that was when I was like, I mean, I can't envision how I was, but I know I was screaming. I was screaming at production. I was screaming at the cast. I didn't want to know anybody. Everybody kept trying to come and talk to me and say it's okay and that, but I didn't know anyone. I was in a state of fight or flight. I didn't know any of these people. All I wanted to do was get out of there. And production was saying that I couldn't leave. They were saying that I couldn't leave the house, that they weren't going to let me leave. And so I said, you can't do that. I'm good. You have to let me leave. And they wouldn't. So I called the police. On the island of Tobago, I called the police and said that MTV keeping me here, and I want to leave the house because I'm getting, picked on and roughed up. And I felt really bullied because at one stage I was surrounded by about 20, at least 20 people, like in a circle around me. And I'm a small person. I'm tiny, right? Against some of these really big American kids or any kids that are big.
Yeah.
I'm just a small person, right? But I felt really unsafe, and I didn't feel unsafe like someone was going to kill me, but I just had lost it, right? Obviously, I wanted to get out and calm down and be on my own, but they let it go so far. I couldn't come back from that.
Mm-hmm.
I literally, and I mean, it took a long time. I had a serious breakdown after. Like, I really, really suffered. I'm not saying it was all that fault because I was already in a bad place. I premised it with that. I was already,
Right.
but I came out of it in a terrible, terrible place. And yeah, took me a while to kind of
Pick up the pieces.
uh, yeah, because I had to kind of reinvent my life again. I moved back to England and then I had to reinvent myself all over again and leave that behind. And that wasn't easy, I loved living in America. I loved LA. I loved working in the industry. If I could have worked in the industry my whole life, I would have done it because I loved it. I didn't have to be in the spotlight. I was happy to PA, extra. I was happy to do all
Yeah.
those jobs, And I know that I would have worked my way up because I'm intelligent. So I wouldn't have
Yeah.
had a problem doing that. And in those kinds of situations, you aren't stressed like I was there. You aren't triggered like I am. This was a whole set of like triggers for me that really set me off, and nobody could reach me. And when I got to the hotel, it just got worse and worse because they sent me to a hotel and they said you can't go home yet. Well, they said they couldn't get flights or whatever. I can't remember, but they kept me there for a couple of nights trying to get me to come back in the house.
Really?
hmm But I wouldn't go.
But I assume they tried to get like an exit interview for you as well, right? Since that's what they
They
usually.
did. Like when I got back to LA, they didn't pay me. They didn't pay me.
They didn't.
They
They didn't pay
didn't
you
pay
for
me.
going on the show. Do you know why? Like, did they explain
He
why?
said I broke the contract.
What was the contract that you broke?
I was supposed to be there until I got eliminated or whatever.
I thought it was like an appearance check that you get for just showing up.
No, because I left. I don't know. I mean, I didn't know about contracts those days. I didn't even read it. I've got to be honest. I didn't
Yeah.
read it. I read the first one. I read the real world one because I was really excited and really interested at that point. But by the time it got round to the Gauntlet, I'd seen enough dodgy MTV contracts that I was like, okay, this is just going to be the same as the other. All I want to know is how much I'm going to get paid,
Mhm. Well, that's just now after hearing you kind of explain your side of the story, pretty much all I could chalk it up to is the power of the editing. Of course, you've never seen it, but just from like the fans who've seen it and myself, of course, like the way that thing was kind of depicted was we didn't it just kind of made it seem like you randomly call the cops and said you got manhandled, of course, without really much substance behind it. Which I guess makes sense for them to depict it that way. If you know,
I don't know why they wouldn't have shown the bit where Ruthie jumped on my back, though.
I,
I suppose they didn't want to make her look like the bad person, or
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, and, but listen.